The right-wing theocrats in the Supreme Court have now officially done something that will essentially reverse the expansion of rights that were given to us by the very same court less than 50 years ago. They have reversed Roe v. Wade, meaning that the constitutional protections for women's reproductive rights no longer exist. It is now up to the states, at least for now, to determine what their reproductive rights will entail. And as you can imagine, immediately after the Supreme Court reversed Roe v. Wade, roughly half the states in the United States made clear that they plan on either completely banning abortion or severely restricting it. Now, I want to give you some of the details on what we learned after this reversal. Joining Alito, obviously Alito, conservative justice, were Thomas and Justices Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett. The latter three justices are Trump appointees. Thomas first voted to overrule Roe 30 years ago. 4 justices would have left Roe and Casey in place. Now the vote was 6-3, so obviously it was divided along ideological lines, 6-3 to uphold the Mississippi law, which effectively bans abortion past 15 weeks. But Chief Justice John Roberts did not join his conservative colleagues in overturning Roe. He wrote that there was no need to overturn the broad procedures to rule in Mississippi's favor. And I would argue that he was right about that, but it didn't matter. There is a strong conservative majority in the Supreme Court, and they get to decide to strip us of our rights. And I want to also note that this is unprecedented. This is the first time the Supreme Court is rolling back rights that had been expanded by the Supreme Court decades earlier. Okay, so we're moving backwards. This country is devolving. Women's ability to make decisions about their own bodies have been stripped away from them. And for all of the right wingers that are telling you, it's okay, everyone calm down. It's up to the states now. It's up to the states to decide. Well, these anti-reproductive rights zealots are currently working on what their next agenda item is, which is ensuring that the federal government codify the ban of reproductive rights, the banning of women being able to make decisions about their own bodies. And considering the unbelievable corruption and incompetence of the mainstream Democratic Party, there's really no fierce opposition preventing the right wing from doing what they've clearly stated they intend to do. So the liberal justices obviously dissented with this decision, with the majority decision, and they write, with sorrow for this court, but more for the many millions of American women who have today lost a fundamental constitutional protection, we dissent, they wrote, warning that abortion opponents now could pursue a nationwide ban from the moment of conception and without exceptions for rape or incest. And let's just make something very clear here. I've said it before many times, I'll say it again. This is not a debate or a discussion about life and death. We have had the distinct pleasure of experiencing the right-wing death cult in this country during the global pandemic that has killed over 1 million Americans. They couldn't be bothered to put a piece of fabric on their faces temporarily to save people's lives, to stop the spread of a lethal virus. They couldn't be bothered with that. They argued that that was too invasive, that it was a violation of their bodily autonomy. Oh, it was a violation of their liberties. Take a look at what happens to a woman's body, both during pregnancy and during childbirth. And try to compare that to the very easy action of putting a mask on to protect people from dying due to a contagious virus. Nah, these people, they were never, ever sincere about wanting to protect life. They watch us die day in and day out based on their policies, based on their refusals to take care of the American people when they're down on their luck. How many people die of poverty in this country? How many Republican lawmakers have fought aggressively to cut down whatever is left of our measly, minuscule social spending programs, which overwhelmingly help children living in poverty? And then they turn around and they tell us, no, we want to control women's bodies because we care about lives. They never have cared about lives. This is really about power and control. And if you look at the roots of the anti-choice movement in this country, you will learn that it was never, ever about protecting lives. It was all about ensuring all of these right-wing organizations, all of these religious leaders came together to force their ideology upon all of us. And that we're dealing with the consequences today.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. Again, it's never been about life. It feels insulting for someone to have to explain that. Like it's so abundantly clear. I mean, it was clear before the pandemic that they don't care about people dying because they don't have health insurance. They don't care about people who die because they don't have food or because they don't have housing, and so they're exposed to the elements. 1,500 people die just in heat waves every single year. They don't care about that. They're not interested in saving your life. There are going to be women who die directly because of this in red states. Women who desperately need abortions to save their lives. They will be left to die if they can't get access to one in those states, and they will gladly watch those women die. They won't care at all, let alone everything that you said about the pandemic. I mean, thousands of people were dying every day for month after month after month after month. And it wasn't just that they wouldn't get vaccinated or that they wouldn't wear a mask. It's a larger issue than that they just didn't care that it was happening. Like it wasn't like I'm not willing to do the mask to save lives. It doesn't bother me that so many people are dying. They found it more annoying that people talked about it. They found the discussion about possible solutions more inconvenient than the mass death that we were experiencing every single day and still experience. I mean, it's still more than 300 Americans dying every single day. That's been stretching for so many months that if you were to actually stop and think about it, you would break down crying. But they just don't care at all. They don't care about life. They don't care about the kids. The second the kid is born, they're gonna forget about it again. They don't care about that either. It's a process, it's a symbol, that's all it is. They know, as conservative women too, that there is something about women that is suspect, that is suspicious. It is supposed to be feared, and it definitely is supposed to be controlled. Men have been convinced by conservatives in this country to be constantly afraid of their diminishing position. It's not just in terms of gender. They've got a lot of race-based fears that have been instilled in them as well as religious fears, but definitely about women. The fact that there might be a female pilot is supposed to reduce a conservative men to shaking and bawling. And so yes, they want to control them. And importantly, they will get no pleasure from this in the end. Have you noticed that Republicans are never any happier after they win? You know, when no gun control happens, they're more scared and angry after. When Trump won, they were more angry than they were during the Trump years, and there's a reason for that. It is because when you pursue in politics things that have no effect on your life and only have a negative effect on other people, it necessarily cannot improve your lot in life. Conservatives who right now are tweeting about how great it is that the hoes are gonna learn, and I'm sure you've seen many tweets like that. Are you gonna retire more easily because Roe v. Wade's gone? You're gonna buy a home? Your wage is going up? You got health insurance all of a sudden? Because some woman you're never gonna meet is gonna be forced to bear like the incestuous rape child that's been forced on her? Is that gonna improve your lot in life? It isn't. This is the con that has been played on conservatives. Regular conservative voters by their media and by their politicians for years and years and years. And so they are left after every victory more angry, more hollow, more bitter because their life is still the crap that it was going into this process.
No, I mean, look, you make such a great point there, and it immediately goes to what I've noticed about American politics, especially over the last several years. I mean, this is what the playbook is for the Republican Party. It's been the playbook for the Republican Party, and increasingly we're seeing it with Democrats as well. The effort to avoid discussing or debating any of the fundamental bread and butter issues that have an impact on all Americans, including my conservative brothers and sisters, the individuals in red states across this country who are living in poverty, who have a state government that has given them the middle finger. Yep. These are states where, by the way, I know how much you guys hate New York and California, but the taxes that we pay the federal government overwhelmingly goes to benefit your states, because your state lawmakers, those Republican lawmakers who are effectively stripping you of your rights as we speak, would also like to, that's the thing. They have no problem watching Americans die of poverty. And I'm not talking about zygotes here. I'm talking about viable human beings, including children. Their policies have a direct impact on their lives, whether they live or die. Maybe that's what they enjoy. Maybe they enjoy watching living, breathing, viable humans slowly deteriorate until they potentially die as a result of their austerity measures, as a result of them constantly attacking people who work 40 hours plus a week and still are not getting paid enough to pay for the basic necessities of life, including putting a roof over their heads. The Republican Party has been incredibly effective in empowering Wall Street, in empowering private equity firms who have bought up all the real estate in this country and priced ordinary Americans, whether they're conservative or liberal, out of the housing markets across the country. That is what the Republican Party represents. They want to lean in aggressively on these culture war issues because they don't want you to pay attention to the fact that they're robbing you. So congratulations, gentlemen, for all the morons out there who are celebrating today because they think the hoes will learn now. The hoes be knowing, okay? The hoes be knowing. And what you don't know is that you're getting robbed and you're freaking smiling as they're doing it, because all politics has devolved into for right-wing voters at this point is owning the libs. That's it, owning the libs. They own the libs, they laugh about it for a few hours, and then they go back to their sad lives where they can't even take care of themselves and their families because the very people that they pander to, the very politicians that they provide unwavering support to, screw them, rob them, and they love it. So enjoy that. The hoes be knowing.
Yeah, and as I'm sure you talked about on the Damage Report this morning, I'm sure you will here too. What we're identifying, what the right does, the con that they play on their own voters, is obviously effective. It's kept the Republicans, in power in some time, them in their individual seats and all that. It's gotten them the Supreme Court and all that. It's also, in theory, one would imagine very easy to beat if you had a competent party that could offer an actual alternative. Like the Republicans don't want you to focus on the economic state of your life. And so they invent an ever-changing number of social stuff that you're supposed to be worried about. Some fictional caravan or Dr. Seuss or Mr. Potato Head's penis or whatever. They will have that. That's how they con their people. And then the Democratic Party just points to them and says, wouldn't it be terrible if they were in office? Now, imagine what if we had one party that actually cared about what your life was like and cared that your wages keep losing out against inflation more and more so every year. How easy would it be to beat that?
They don't care about you. Let's just be very clear. They don't care about you. They don't care, and not just you, John, all of us. The Democratic Party, the mainstream Democratic Party today gave us a massive middle finger. Okay, with Joe Biden, and Francesca will talk about this on the show later in I believe the second hour. But Joe Biden's speech today was, man, this really sucks. You should really elect more of us so this doesn't happen. You guys are in charge. What are you talking about? Nancy Pelosi sending out the fundraising emails immediately. What a gift. What a gift to the Democratic Party. Time to fundraise. What an awesome issue that we can campaign on, fundraise on, and then do absolutely nothing about. And by the way, speaking of Nancy Pelosi, I'd like to share the double middle finger that she gave the American people today by reading a poem from a member of the Israeli military. Let's watch.
From time to time, I quote this poem by Ehud Manor. He's an Israeli poet. I met his wife when I've been in Israel. He says, I have no other country, even though my land is burning. Only a word in Hebrew penetrates my veins, my soul, with an aching body and with a hungry heart. Here is my home. I will not be silent, for my country has changed her face. My country has changed her face. I shall not give up on her. I shall remind her and sing into her ears until she opens her eyes. Clearly, we hope that the Supreme Court would open its eyes.
John, clearly she hopes that the Supreme Court will open its eyes. Clearly she hopes. A useless, pathetic shell of a woman, step down immediately. You are not fit to lead anything. You are not fit to fight. You couldn't fight your way out of a wet paper bag. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, including the rest of Democratic leadership, needs to step the hell down. I mean, they're holding on to power, will not let it go, and the country is suffering as a result of that.
Yeah,
it's absolutely pathetic.
There's a concept in the parliamentary system of vote of no confidence. There's the idea, and more importantly than the mechanism, there is the idea that there should be accountability. That if you fail, even like in one important thing, even if you've been doing stuff that your party likes for a few years, and there's one big thing that you have to get done and you fail, you might step down. Like, no, she should just be in charge for years and years and years and years. Doesn't matter if anything gets done. She's quoting a poet who, like, all he has is hope. Do you know why? Because he's a damn poet. That's why he's not in charge. He's not the Speaker of the House. Like the idea that you would, like I once saw a child who said, why isn't the world better? And I thought, yes, that child is right. Why isn't the world better? That's a child, they're not in charge, you are. And I'm not saying that Nancy Pelosi can snap her fingers and suddenly the Senate will do what it needs to do. And that is often as far as any centrist Democrat, a regular voter I mean, will take this comparison and say, well, what could she do? Stop asking rhetorical questions and try to answer it. What could she do? Do you have any ideas? Between like a fantasy world where she can instantly get it done through a mechanism we don't understand and absolutely nothing, there is a broad gulf of possibility. You could do something, you could use your position in leadership, you could use your ability to get the media to pay attention. You could get the entire multi-100-person caucus of the Democrats in the House to go and just sit outside of Sinema and Manchin's offices for a couple months if necessary. God knows you're not getting anything done anyway. You've got the time. You could put the focus on the people that might be persuaded. Talking about these conservative justices as if your hope is gonna influence them is a goddamn waste of time. They weren't put there to be responsive to the people or whatever. They were put there for a mission and they just accomplished it. But you could be putting pressure on people, and at least there would be a chance that they would cave. At least then, even if they didn't, the voters would be able to look and say, Democratic leadership is doing everything they can against the worst members of their party. And when it comes to the next election, one of the things they're gonna do is replace them with better Democrats. But none of that is on the table. There's no pressure. And when it comes time for a primary, what do when it comes to the worst Democrats in the party? She went and campaigned for Henry Cuellar against a pro-choice Democrat, a progressive in Jessica Cisneros. So don't give me your poems. We know what you did with your actual power, and it was advancing the same mission as these Republicans.
Yeah, and just to back up a little bit, I just want to remind everyone that back in 2009, when President Barack Obama had a super majority in Congress and had the ability to pass a federal law protecting women's reproductive rights, he literally said that it wasn't the top priority. It wasn't a priority, okay? Because he would rather capitulate to the Republican Party with the hope that they would help him pass his Heritage Foundation written Affordable Care Act.
But it did work though, Anna, right? I mean, at least like it was a rough bargain, but in the end they helped.
But it's interesting to see how the establishment Democrats are trying to rewrite history and feed us this revisionist garbage about why Obama didn't do it. Now, Obama didn't do it because he was capitulating to the right wing. Make no mistake about it. But what they're trying to tell us now is, no, the reason why Obama didn't do it is because he couldn't do it. Yeah, he had a super majority in Congress, but there were blue dog Democrats who are standing in the way. And then you have Nancy Pelosi, fast forward to today, after reading the leaked reversal of Roe v. Wade. Okay, this is before the official reversal happened. After that leak, she decides to campaign for a right-wing Democrat who, for the most part, voted along with Donald Trump when he was in power, and that's Henry Cuellar.
Yeah. When
she could have endorsed his progressive primary challenger, Jessica Cisneros. And who knows, maybe that endorsement would have made all the difference because that was a close race.
It was.
But make no mistake, we know what the Republican Party is about. And sometimes people get mad because they feel like I'm a little too harsh toward Democrats. I should focus more of my energy toward Republicans. Listen, guys, I tell you that the Republican Party is trash every day. I don't know what more I can do. If you don't believe me, if you don't believe I'm being sincere there, okay, that's on you. But the Republican Party tells us who they are. They tell us what they plan to do. They give us endless warnings about what they're gonna do. But the Democrats, they lie to us.
Yeah.
They fundraise off issues we care about. They purport to care about the same issues. They claim they're gonna fight for those same issues. And when push comes to shove, all they give us is kente cloths and poems. I'm not interested. This party is an absolute failure. They failed the American people. And I'm done with the performative politics. I'm done with like the incredibly shallow culture war narratives. I want fighters. Because this isn't just about like, let's have a friendly debate about policy. They are rolling back our rights. And if you think it stops at reproductive rights, you're sadly mistaken. They're coming for gay marriage. They're coming for contraception. In fact, Clarence Thomas made that abundantly clear in his decision. He wrote a separate decision that concurs with the conservative justices, but goes even further. He wants to roll back all of those other constitutional rights that have been granted to people in the gay community, that have been granted to married couples. He wants to allow states to regulate what kind of sex you're engaging in, okay? He wants to uphold anti-sodomy laws. These people are creeps, okay? Here's what non-creeps don't do, okay? Non-creeps don't sit around thinking about anal sex among other people who are in relationships. I don't think about other people having anal sex. Conservative justices, along with the right-wing movement in this country, they can't stop thinking about anal sex. It's on the mind all the time. So much so that Clarence Thomas wants to regulate whether you have anal sex, how you have anal sex. Super creepy stuff, super creepy. Sounds like the Supreme Court has a few groomers in it. One final thing I'll say is, don't waste your money by giving it to members of the Democratic Party. They're gonna be fundraising off of this. They're gonna exploit this tragic moment for their own political purposes, and they don't deserve that funding in their campaign coffers. They have abandoned the American people. They only look out for themselves. The only time you ever see a corporate Democrat fight is if they're fighting progressive members of their own party. Other than that, they're useless. So look into organizations that actually wanna fight. Look into organizations that are providing safe abortion access to women in red states, whether it's by covering their travel expenses or whatever it is that they do to help make this situation a little easier for women who are gonna really bear the brunt of this Supreme Court decision today. But wasting your money by giving it to the corporate Democrats right now is just it's not the way to go. At some point, we have to change course and realize these people do not care about us.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.